I've been at the RUC before, and then I was presenting work related to a project about uncertainty, communication, and climate change. And today, it's something a bit different, but I would still say related, and surprisingly a bit related to what you were talking about also. I don't think I have to spend any time on convincing you that uncertainty communication is an important topic, right? Whether we're talking about climate change or COVID or whatever else, we believe that this is important. One sort of general assumption that I have, and I think most of you also will have, is that in general, people find uncertainty somewhat aversive. If we keep all other things equal, people prefer to have more certain information about something in general, right? And I would say that there is some evidence for that also from different domains. General JDM studies going back to Ellsberg and even before that. We can look at advice taking, where we see that if you have an advisor who's confident, people listen more to this advice than if the advisor is uncertain. Studies from different fields showing that if you have someone who's expressing uncertainty, people can perceive this person as less competent, less trustworthy, right? Whether it's a leader or a scientist or whatever. And one sort of explanatory mechanism that I quite like for this fact is the confidence heuristic. We know from experience that when I know something, when I know what I'm talking about, I'm certain about it. I can express myself with certainty. And when I'm listening to someone who's confident, well, I guess I believe that they know what they're talking about also, unless I have evidence to the contrary, right? So let's say that this is a general framework and something that we have some evidence for, that uncertainty is aversive to people somewhat. But can uncertainty also be persuasive? Can we be persuaded by uncertainty? This article from 2010 by Karmarkar and Tormala, with a nice title, "Believe Me, I Have No Idea What I'm Talking About," makes a suggestion in this direction. They say, so they're working from this attitude persuasion research perspective, and they're looking at classical persuasion variables: source certainty, source expertise. And in general, very intuitive, higher certainty is more persuasive, higher expertise, more persuasive. No surprises. What they are saying is, let's look at how these variables interact. What if we put them together? And their bold hypothesis is what they call an incongruity hypothesis. And they're saying the combination here is key. If you put low certainty together with high expertise, it can actually be persuasive. What's happening? Well, then we're coming to this expectancy violation, the surprise that Helen was talking about. We expect experts to be certain. They know what they're talking about. They can be confident. They can say stuff with certainty. So when we are getting a message from an expert and this expert is saying, I don't know, I'm uncertain, can't say, this makes you surprised. The surprise makes you more involved with the message. So you're paying more attention, maybe you're thinking more about it. And then you're more persuaded by the message, assuming that the message has strong arguments, of course. So that's the theoretical viewpoint that they are working from. And they have 3 experiments in this article from 2010 in support of this hypothesis. So I should tell you the context that we're talking about here. In all 3 experiments, they are using a restaurant review. So it's a quite low stakes, simple kind of scenario. Participants are coming into the lab and they are reading about Bianco, this Italian restaurant, which gets a high grade, 4 out of 5. And this review is presented in different ways to different participants. They manipulate expertise. Either it's a review written by a food critic or by a networks manager who's posting an online review somewhere. And And they manipulate certainty at 3 points in the text. You have the headline here, tentative or confident, 4 out of 5. In the middle of the text, somewhere around here, the reviewer says, of course, I can't be certain that the chef can do all of the dishes on the menu as well as these. Or he says, I am certain that the chef can do all of the dishes, etc. And also in the conclusion, there's a similar manipulation of certainty. So very straightforward, simple manipulations of certainty, also quite clear manipulations in my opinion, but we can talk about that. Here are the results. From the first experiment, they have evidence that it's surprising when an expert is uncertain. That's what you're seeing here. And it's surprising when a novice is certain. And that influences the attitudes, is what they show in the second and the third experiment. You're more persuaded, you report more positive attitudes to this restaurant after reading a certain review from a non-expert. But when you have an expert source, you're more persuaded when the expert is uncertain. So I find this very interesting and provocative, surprising results. So we have an ongoing project at BI Norwegian Business School where we are doing replications. We got some funding for that. And this was the first study that we decided that we want to replicate. We think the topic is important, obviously. The article has been quite impactful. And the findings are counterintuitive, right? It contrasts with some other stuff that we know. And also there are some issues. This is 2010 article, pre-replication crisis. So small samples would be good to do this in a high-powered way. So we decided on that, and we aimed for the registered report format, where we, plan everything in advance and get the sort of thumbs up before data collection. So we wanted obviously to do a close replication of the original study. That was the sort of main aim. We also wanted to add some extensions to this. Specifically, I don't know if you noticed, but if you compare the two conditions, low and high certainty, there was actually a good reason for this reviewer being uncertain. The reviewer was saying, I've only been here once, so I can't be confident about my opinion. I buy that. So that's a good argument for being uncertain. In the certainty condition, the reviewer is just saying, I'm certain. But why? Why are you certain? I was wondering. So we added some new conditions where we tried to have a reason for certainty. And we had another condition where we removed the reason for uncertainty to see if this can explain the positive reactions to uncertainty. We also added individual difference measure, need for closure, which is dislike of ambiguity or uncertainty. Maybe this could moderate the results somehow. And we got the thumbs up and collected data after we got in principle acceptance. We did some review of this, revision of this also, but collected data based on the acceptance that we got. We have just over 1,000 participants with 500 in the conditions that directly replicate the original study. And just as a first sort of a quality control, we had manipulation checks following the original study, and we see huge effects on the things that we should see huge effects on. Certainty influences perceptions of certainty, expertise influences perceptions of expertise. Our new manipulation of reason also worked, but with a smaller effect size. So people are paying attention. It's not just noise, is what I'm getting from this. But of course, the main thing is the results when it comes to attitudes. And we don't see the same thing as the original study. We see what I would say are quite intuitive results, namely that regardless of expertise, people have more positive attitudes after reading a review where the reviewer is certain rather than uncertain. So these are the conditions that are directly replicating the original study. It's not a big effect. What happens if we control for the reason? The reason for uncertainty did not moderate the results on the attitude measure. Instead, we see the same thing here also. Still no incongruity effect. No preference or no interaction here. Just the same thing in all conditions. A small preference for a certain review over an uncertain review. So support for this confidence heuristic. Our other extension, this need for closure, didn't work as we thought it would. We find a main effect, so that the higher you score on need for closure, the more positive your attitudes are. So the way that we're thinking about that, this is not the main point here, it's just that these people just want to get over with it and form an opinion quickly, and that's it. They don't want to interact more with the review, sort of, so to speak. So quite straightforward results. Yeah, question?
The lowest.
This is
No, okay, no. My name is Torbjörn. Yeah. Can I ask a question? So, Torbjörn and Gothenburg, and on this attitude there at the green one, it looks like it's still, I mean, it's a positive impact that you have a reason, right? Even though it might not be significant. Yeah, or is it? If you look at the box plot, I think the second column.
So here are the conditions where you don't have reason, and here is no reason.
Right, and the second column on the bottom there, it looks better to me.
We like statistically, there's no effect on it of it on attitudes. Yeah, not even a small effect, sort of. The only thing we found, we had some other measures also. We had the measure of expectancy violation, and people found it less surprising with uncertainty when it had a reason. But that kind of makes sense. Yeah. The main results are very straightforward, right? Small positive effect of certainty on attitudes. So we have to conclude that it's a failed replication, right? We can't do anything else than that. No support for incongruity hypothesis, support for the confidence heuristic instead. So what's interesting then is to think about why the results differ. I think we can cross out the top line here. I don't think this is due to different procedures. We tried to stay as close as we possibly could to the original study, tried to be as faithful as we could to everything. So I find that very unlikely. Contextual changes is always a possibility when you're doing a replication study. We are not in 2008 or 9 anymore. We are in 2024. So lots of things have happened, right? Maybe exposure to Trump or COVID or wars in Ukraine and can change your attitudes to uncertainty. It's a possibility. And we can't really conclude anything. What I take from this is that if there is an incongruity effect of the sort that the original authors are describing, it's not very general, or there are some strong boundary conditions there, which is a problem if you want to have such a theory. And we should adjust our beliefs a bit and stick to the sort of intuitive hypothesis there. I also think it's important to think about what this means. So I don't know about you, but I don't really care that much about restaurant reviews and whether reviewers should be uncertain or certain when they write the reviews, but I care about other things. And if experts can gain from being uncertain, I think it's important to know that. And I think that this is a very this is a good chance. This is a context which is low stakes, No one is coming to a restaurant review with very strong preconceptions and biases or whatever. It's a good chance for this hypothesis to work in a sense, and it doesn't work there. But I think we should think about this question in other domains, and think about this question, if there are times or contexts where uncertainty is more persuasive. And I have a feeling that there should be such contexts, but I can't tell you exactly what those contexts are, so maybe you can tell me. Should experts always be certain? I don't think so, and I don't think you think that either. I think that we care about persuasion, maybe, but we care about many other things also. And obviously, it's important to be honest and open and transparent. We're not like, if you're giving advice to experts, I think we should advise them to play the long game and build trust and be honest and open about uncertainty, even if it has costs in the short run. So we can return to the age-old question about whether there are better or worse ways to communicate uncertainty. That's what I think is still an important and interesting question.